I'm Charity, just starting college. I started working part-time in my second semester to make some extra cash for tuition and living expenses. My parents said they could afford it, but I was stubborn and pretty independent, so I always did my own thing. My first job was working as a sales clerk at Target. I was excited when I got the job, but that excitement didn't last long when I saw the schedule. I had to work 2 night shifts a week. Since the store had to handle a ton of holiday shoppers, it was pretty much open 24/7. I wasn't a fan of the whole night shift thing at all. The quiet and darkness always freaked me out a bit, but I told myself I needed the money, and it was a chance to get used to adulting. On my first night working the night shift, I went to the store feeling both excited and nervous. The store at night felt totally different from during the day. The shelves were all neat, and the soft yellow lights from the ceiling were spread out, but the silence made it feel like everything was frozen. I started my shift like usual, fixing things customers left in the wrong spot, cleaning the shelves, and checking the stock. Everything was going pretty smoothly, nothing too crazy. Time dragged on, and by the time it hit midnight, I was starting to feel worn out. Leaning on the cashier counter, I tried not to let my eyes shut. It was way too quiet, just the hum of the AC and a few customers strolling by. Out of nowhere, a guy walked up. He was wearing a white shirt, pants, and had his hair all neat and combed. He looked really put together, but his intense stare and serious face kind of made me feel uneasy. He introduced himself as the store manager and told me to head to the back to organize the stock. I hesitated since it was my first time meeting him, but his serious look made me too nervous to say no. I nodded and quickly headed to the warehouse like he asked. On my way, I ran into another guy coming toward me. He was in a store uniform and gave me a curious look. I told him what the manager asked me to do. His face totally changed in an instant. He took off the name tag around his neck, showing he was actually the real manager of the store. A chill ran down my spine. Who was that guy? The manager told me to turn around and point out the other guy. As soon as we stepped into the main hall, the lights suddenly went out. The whole store was swallowed up by darkness. In a split second, the quiet place turned into chaos. Customers were whispering, some were yelling, and it felt like pure panic. I just stood there in the dark, my heart racing, not sure what to do next. Then, there was a loud bang, a gunshot. I crouched down, my body shaking. I ducked low, trying to find somewhere to hide. My hand brushed against a shelf, so I crawled between the boxes and tried to stay quiet. In the dark, I could hear footsteps running, echoing all around. The screams, the sound of stuff crashing, and the brutal gunshots kept going, totally freaking me out. Sweat was dripping down my forehead and back, but I didn't dare move too much. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone. While trying to dial 911, I had to use both hands to keep the phone from slipping out of my grip. My voice was shaking, and I kept stumbling over my words as I explained what was going on. About 10 minutes later, I heard police sirens outside the store. The flashing red and blue lights peeked through the gaps in the shelves, giving me a bit of hope. But I still didn't dare move. I just had to sit there and wait. The police loudspeaker blared, telling everyone to stay calm and not move. I could hear their footsteps, their orders, and they started clearing each area. After about an hour, things started to calm down. I stepped out of my hiding spot, my legs shaking and my mind racing with fear. The police led the staff and customers out one by one. I found out that a group of young guys had planned to rob the store. The guy in the white shirt was their distraction, making it easy for them to carry out their plan. They used the darkness to grab phones, wallets, and valuables from customers. A few security guards got hurt trying to stop them, but luckily, no one died. 2 days later, the police caught the group of guys with help from security cameras and witness statements. I felt relieved that it was all over. But every time I closed my eyes, I could still hear gunshots, screams, and feel the darkness closing in on me. I was so shaken up that I couldn't go to the store or any crowded places to shop for years after that. It was a night I never wanted to go through again. Who would have thought my first shift would turn into such a nightmare? I'm Lauren, decided to be a single mom to raise my son, Baron. This horrific thing happened to my mom and my son 3 years ago, back when Baron was 6. It was early December and Christmas. The biggest holiday of the year was coming up. The streets were lit up with sparkling lights all over the fake Christmas trees along the sidewalks, making it feel all cozy, even in the cold. The busy tunes from the cafes and shops mixed with all the laughter from the shoppers. I took Baron out to grab some stuff and soak up the vibe. Inside the store, there were huge pine trees covered in lights and booths full of colorful gifts, making it feel like you were in some kind of holiday wonderland. My son and I headed out once the cart was full, and he was super hyped about the stuff we just got. At the entrance, we saw a Santa Claus guy, waving and looking all chill and friendly. Baron ran over all excited. Santa's gotta be every kid's favorite when Christmas rolls around. The kid gave Santa a friendly hello and grabbed his hand. I was pretty sure this was just a store employee. They really know how to grab people's attention and make them happy. I pushed the cart forward, gave a little smile and nod like I was saying hi. Santa smiled and asked Baron what he wanted for Christmas. An RC jet. I love it. It's so cool. Baron was totally pumped. I laughed a little, since that was actually the gift I was going to get him. You'll totally get the gift you want, for you're a good kid, right? Santa's compliments, along with the little reminder, made Baron nod. The way the guy acting like Santa talked was hilarious. He also asked how things were going for me as a single mom. At first, I was touched by the sympathy, but then it was clear I hadn't told him anything about myself, but he knew all about it. I smiled kind of shy and gave him a suspicious look. Hey, you ever heard that song about Santa kissing the mom on Christmas Eve, kid? He asked Baron, but his eyes, smile, and the whole vibe of the question were aimed at me. Before Baron could even react, and I was totally surprised, that Santa came up and kissed my hand all close-like. He didn't stop there, though. He tried to get even closer. I quickly stepped back and pulled my son away, feeling pretty frustrated. When I got to the parking lot, I looked back at the entrance, and that Santa was gone. Some people have such a weird attitude when it comes to customer service. Or is it just how people see things? I quickly shook off the thoughts about that Santa and started getting dinner ready for us. After dinner, we just kicked back in the living room, watching the Christmas special until it got pretty late. Out of nowhere, someone knocked on the door. I looked over, and then it knocked again. I told my son to stay put and walked over to the door. Honestly, I wasn't expecting anyone to show up at 10 at night. I didn't open the door, just stood a few steps back and asked, "Who's there?" I heard that familiar laugh, like in Christmas movies, and then he said, "It's Santa." Right away, Baron yelled and ran over, but I signaled him to chill and stay put. I asked him what he was doing here so late. This wasn't even the day for giving gifts to kids. Honestly, I was just trying to keep things cool for Baron, but I was pretty sure there was a scammer behind the door. The guy claiming to be Santa said he found something I dropped at Kroger this morning. So, it was that store employee my mom and I ran into earlier. I asked him what the item was, but he just gave me some vague, smart aleck answer. I don't know, but just open the door and I'll show you." "Thanks, but I didn't drop anything, and if I did, I wouldn't need it back." The guy clearly had no clue what I was talking about. He just kept going on about me opening the door and all the knocking. I made it clear again and told him I'd call the police if he stuck around for another 5 minutes. Eventually, he just left. I took Barron to the bedroom, and he wouldn't stop asking about Santa. I had no idea how to explain it to him. He'd totally freak out if I told him Santa wasn't real. The next morning, I called up Kroger's customer service to complain about their employees bugging me. But the info they gave me was wild. They said they don't have any employees dressed up as Santa at the entrance. I froze up, anxiety hitting me all at once. If he wasn't a store employee, then who the heck was he? My mind was all over the place with questions, and I couldn't focus the rest of the morning. I called the police right away and told them everything I could remember. They said they'd look into it and boost patrols around the area to keep things safe. I couldn't sleep that night. Every little sound freaked me out. I kept checking my windows and doors, feeling like something was watching me. A week later, the police called and said they caught some sketchy guy. He'd been reported for the same kind of harassment before, and turns out he had a record for burglary and trespassing too. After being grilled, he finally admitted to it. I was glad to hear he got arrested, but those cold eyes stuck with me for a long time. Barron was way too young to get what happened, but I figured I should teach him to be careful around strangers, even if they seemed friendly. That Christmas, we still put up the tree, swapped gifts, and made great memories with our son and family. But deep down, I kept reminding myself to stay on guard. The world's got its fair share of Christmas magic, but also some unexpected dangers. I'm Tabby, 29 years old. I'm at Costco grabbing stuff for Thanksgiving and Christmas. This is where I saw something awful go down 12 years ago. Back then I was in high school, and my crew was two couples, me and Roger, the school's baseball captain, and JC, my childhood bestie, and her boyfriend Kane. We were setting up a trip for Thanksgiving. I gotta get a new phone. This one's out of space, JC whined. Yo, Tabby, your dad's Costco is doing its biggest sale of the year, right? Kaner asked. Yeah, Dad told me. I didn't even get to finish. Hurry up, guys, let's grab some stuff for the trip, Kane said, yanking JC's hand, and Roger and I rushed after them. It took us like 20 minutes to get to Costco. There was a bunch of people out front, waiting for the store to open to grab stuff at a good price. God, so many people, Kane said, freaking out. How long we gotta wait in this line? JC grumbled. Just one call and we're good, I laughed and pulled out my phone to call Dad. Got Dad's instructions, so we drove around to the back and the security guard let us in. JC and Kane were freaking out, running down the aisles, digging through everything. You two, quit making it so obvious, I told them. But JC and Kane totally ignored them. They were so hyped. Stuff kept falling, getting moved around, and just getting messed up. And Kane didn't stop there. He pulled out his phone, just stood there bouncing, and was straight up teasing the people in line. It was his dumb move that caused everything to go south. The crowd outside was pissed, yelling and cussing, and there was still like 10 minutes before the store opened. They busted down the fence real quick, got to the entrance, and kept pushing and yelling. The security guard nearby locked the door fast and used his whole body to block it. But with all those people pushing, the door got wrecked real quick, and the security guard got knocked down. Inside the store, people were rushing to the shelves, fighting for the discounted stuff as fast as they could. You could hear shopping bags rustling, carts banging into each other, and non-stop yelling, fighting, and cussing every time someone got shoved or lost their balance. Roger grabbed my hand and pulled me to a corner to sit down, while Kane and JC were all over the place,
not even sure where they were. The guard who was holding the door earlier didn't even have time to get up. He just kept getting trampled. He was struggling like crazy. But every time he tried to get up, they just pushed him down harder, and blood was pouring from his head, mouth, and nose. My boyfriend Roger saw it and ran over to help him out. But in like a few seconds, Roger got knocked down by the flash flood of people. The next second, Roger yelled in pain as his arm got trampled and snapped. His fingers all twisted and stuck to the floor. "Roger!" I yelled, freaking out. Grabbed my phone to call the police, then called my dad. The call was still going, and right in front of me, like just a few steps away, this middle-aged woman accidentally fell. Before she could even react, a cart came flying at her, smashing right into her head. She barely had time to scream before blood went everywhere, on the floor, the shelves, even on me. The woman was just lying there, totally still, eyes wide open, staring right at me. Her body, probably weighing close to 200 pounds, couldn't stop the crowd. They just kept trampling and fighting right over her. I was in shock. My whole body and nerves were just numb. The police finally showed up, sprayed pepper to calm the crowd down, and shot rubber bullets at the ones who wouldn't quit. Dad ran over, hugged me, and kept saying, "Thank God." Kane and JC were lucky. They were fine, but Roger's hand was broken. He couldn't play baseball anymore. The security guard and the woman didn't make it. That horrific incident got my dad yelled at and fired. The media and a bunch of websites covered the whole thing, and it made my family deal with a lot of shame for ages. In the end, it all blew over. Our two couples are now married and living the good life. We definitely learned a big lesson about thinking things through before we act. I'm Beavis, an employee at the Food Lion supermarket branch in Concord, North Carolina. While working, I quite often pay attention to the behavior and shopping habits of customers. I also take notice of their sense of fashion and appearance a little. Of course, it's done in a subtle and tactful manner. It's simply a habit while working, and I have no ill intentions at all. One morning, just after opening the store and tidying up a bit around the cashier area, I was quite surprised to see the police show up. "Hello, sir. We are investigating a missing person case. Do you know this individual?" The police officer handed me a photo and asked. "Mrs. Nona," I exclaimed in surprise. "I know her. She's a regular customer here." "Are you certain?" "I'm very sure. I've been working here for over 3 years, and I've known her since then." "But you just said she's missing? Oh my God." I was absolutely shocked when I learned the information about the victim of the disappearance. Mrs. Nona was both a customer and an older friend of mine. She was fashionable, youthful with her striking golden blonde hair, lively at 76, and very wealthy. As far as I know, she was still quite open to relationships. "Do you remember the last time Mrs. Nona came here to shop?" It was about 3 days ago, I think. But she didn't come here to shop. She came to pick up her boyfriend." "Can you provide the footage from the front door camera for us?" "Yes, of course." I quickly cooperated with the police, providing all the information I knew to help speed up the investigation as much as possible. I know Nona's new boyfriend, and I don't like him because of his arrogant attitude and the constant sly look he always has. When Nona introduced him to me with cheerfulness and a bit of pride, he looked at me with a sneer. If what I'm feeling is truly the truth, then the data extracted from the camera confirmed exactly what I had said. The man stepped out with a small bag in his hand, heading towards the gray car where Mrs. Nona was waiting in the driver's seat. About an hour later, the car returned to the parking lot in front of the store. But the person sitting in the driver's seat was no longer Nona. It was her boyfriend. He parked Nona's car next to his, then went to open the trunk. transferring items from her car to his, and quickly drove away. The police had difficulty determining what items he was moving because the distance was quite far. But for me, it was a chilling feeling when watching the footage, because the item he moved had strands of striking golden yellow. I think that thing is Mrs. Nona's body. My words made the police officers even more tense. Since the victim was someone I knew and deeply respected, I closely followed the investigation. By extracting additional footage from the camera at the cashier counter, the police quickly identified the man who was with Mrs. Nona that day, Ven Prince. He's 59 years old and had previously served a 30-year sentence for kidnapping women. 3 days after I provided the information and camera footage to the police, Mrs. Nona's disappearance was officially solved. The only regret is that my gut feeling was completely correct. Mrs. Nona had been murdered by him. After being summoned to the station twice for questioning, along with a series of clear and convincing pieces of evidence, Ven finally confessed to the crime after coming up with countless excuses and fabricated stories to lie and stall. At Ven's house, the police found another very convincing piece of evidence: the yogurt container he had bought at the Food Lion store that day. Inside the yogurt container, there were various drugs that would put a person into a deep coma-like state. This would have allowed the murderer to easily carry out his attack on the victim. The police also revealed that Mrs. Nona was the fourth victim of the cold-blooded person called Ven Prince. The news of Mrs. Nona's case left the residents of the neighborhood in shock. Many people attended her funeral to show their sympathy for the unfortunate woman.